Mouse, A Survivor's Tale by Nacho, Samuel, Sarah, Gabriela and Noemi.
Chapter 1. The Sheikh. The year is 1978, and Art visits his father in Rego Park. As they greet each other, Art introduces the reader to some details to his father. Art introduces the reader to some details about his father, such as in 1968 he suffered several heart attacks following the suicide of his wife and Art's mother Anja. However, he is now remarried to Mala, a Gislis who, like him, is Holocaust survivor. One day, his friend Julek introduces him to a young woman named Lucia. The two meet, and although Vladek is not particularly attracted or in love, that Lucia insisted they continue to see each other for several years. In December 1938, Vladek traveled to Sosnowiec, Poland, to visit his father, and there his cousin introduced himself, named Anja, who belongs to a renowned family. Vladek and Anja get to know each other and attract to each other. Eventually, they get into the habit of sending letters to each other, and Anja even sends Vladek a picture of her. The young man decides to frame it and put it on the dresser, which triggers the breakup with Lucia the moment she sees the picture. Vladek and Anja end up getting engaged at the end of 1936, and Vladek moves to Sosnowiec to live with his fiancée and go to a dinner party with her family. Chapter 2. The honeymoon. Alerted by his atypical situation, he decides to call Anja's house and then learns from his future mother-in-law that they received a letter from someone in Czechoslovakia, demeaning him in a different ways, and even claiming that he is marrying Anja to obtain her family's fortune. Once in Anja's house, he manages to explain her what happened with Lucia, and the couple remains their marriage plan. In 1977, they marry and move into one Anja's father's apartment. Vladek arrives at the apartment and meets the police officer. Anja's parents inform him to the look of the neighborhood cemeteries, Stefansak, but they were really looking for Anja. So Vladek sets about making his new factory in Bielsko prosper. Sometime later, in 1937, the couple had a healthy son whom they named Richie. Shortly after giving birth, Anja goes into postpartum depression. Vladek's in-law takes the care of the factory and Richie so that he can take his wife to the Santuarium in Czechoslovakia. During the train ride, they took off the windows, and at the point she saw a large flag in the swastika in the center of the city. However, bad news awaited them on their return. Vladek's father-in-law informs that they were robbed in the factory and absolutely everything in that was taken. In spite of everything, Vladek admits to having had one more year of happiness, until 1979, when he receives a letter from the government that rescues him to the army, and he must leave for the German border. Meanwhile, Anja and Richie settle in Sosnowiec.
Chapter 3. Prisoner of War. In this chapter, Vladek is captured by the Germans. While serving in the Polish army, Vladek is captured by German soldiers, marking the beginning of his ordeal as a POW and his first experience with Nazi brutality. When Vladek goes to the POW camp, he endures difficult conditions in the camp, including forced labor, limited food, and exposure to the cold. Despite this, he maintains hope and he finds a way to survive by himself. Later, Vladek volunteers for a labor assignment outside the camp, which leads to his eventual release. His resilience and adaptability in the face of danger allows him to return to Sosnowiec, although he returns to a changed world. Chapter 4. The New Silence. Vladek and his family face growing restrictions under Nazi occupation, such as the confiscation of business, forced relocation, and several limitations on their movement. marking an increase in oppression of the Jewish people in Sosnowiec. Vladek's family is forced to live in overcrowded ghettos, experiencing dark conditions and constant fear of deportation. This confinement and isolation underscore the tightening control of the Nazis have over the Jewish population. As deportations escalate, Vladek and his family attempt to hide in makeshift shelters to avoid being captured. This experience of living in hiding illustrates the constant danger they face and foreshadows the escalating horrors to come.
Chapter 5 Mouse Holes. In 1943, Allied Jews in Sosnowiec were moved for the last time to the final ghetto in Soluda. Weeks later, all the children from Soluda will be rounded up and taken to Auschwitz to a gas chamber. As this idea about going to a gas chamber crossed Tosa's mind, she poisons Rikiu, her children, and finally she poisons herself as well to avoid going to the chamber. Later on that day, Vladek talks about the bunkers to Art and draws him the one he built since he doesn't know what they are. It consists of an entrance hidden in a coal shed that leads to a hidden room in the basement. Finally, at the end of 1943, the Nazis continue transporting Jews to Auschwitz. After a few days, the ghetto is completely empty. Vladek and Anya leave in the direction of Sosnowiec, although they do not know precisely where they will go. Chapter 6 Mousetraps. In 1944, Anya and Vladek manage to return to Sosnowiec. They head to Anya's father's old house and hide in a shed. Later, he hears that it exists a black market and Vladek decides to go. At one point, he meets Leo, which gives them information about a possible hideout, Mr. Gauka's farm. After visiting her, she tells them that they can stay in the barn for some days. However, Vladek does not feel safe in the city, and the idea of some smugglers to go to Hungary seems like the best option. Days later, Vladek sees the smugglers again, and they tell him that a letter arrived from Abraham informing him that he arrived safely, and they decide to travel to Hungary as it was the best option for them. Vladek, Anya, and Mandelbaum meet the smugglers at the train station. They are bored, but Vladek suspects that one has betrayed them. Sometime later, all the Jews are imprisoned. They starve in prison, and Vladek and Anya remain separated. A week later, the couple met again on the transport that takes them to Auschwitz.
Chapter 1 Part 2 Mouse Beach. Art and Francois are on vacation in Vermont with some friends, but they have to return earlier than planned because Mala broke up with Vladek and took money from him. When they arrive, Art takes a walk with his father and asks him about Auschwitz. In Auschwitz, they take their clothes and give them another ones that generally did not fit their size and give them a tattoo on their forearm to identify them. But things are made easier by teaching English to a guard since he gets him food and gives him clothes of his size. But after 2 months, he is told that he has to be assigned to a work team.
Part 2 Chapter 2 The Time Flies. Art is very stressed about the first part of the book and the offers he gets to create a TV series. He narrates the stories that his father tells him about his life in Auschwitz, such as his work in the workshop, the scarcity of food, and the dealings they did between prisoners with cigarettes. On August 18, 1982, Vladek died because of a heart attack. Part 2, Chapter 3 And here my troubles began. Vladek is going to return all the food he has been saving after the Holocaust. The prisoners of Auschwitz are forced to walk long distance through the countryside, and those who cannot stand it will be killed. Some prisoners brave the Nazis, but they still kill them. Vladek contracts typhus but survives, unlike other prisoners. He is finally exchanged as a prisoner of war.
Chapter 4 Part 2 Saved. Vladek is on a train traveling to the Swiss border, but before arriving he is forced to get off and wait standing for hours. He gets the news that the war has ended and they make him get on a train again, but this time without guards. When they get off, the Americans are not there, but they are free. After a while, another German patrol finds them and catches them again. In the morning, the soldiers are no longer there. They meet the Americans and they dress and feed Vladek, who decides to stay with them to help them in the cleaning. Art receives a call from Mala, who is no longer angry with Vladek. and tells him that his father is sick, so Art has to go to visit them in Florida. Vladek says he wants to go to a good hospital in New York. A few weeks later, he was discharged and went to live with Mala in Rego Park. A month later, Art goes to visit his father to finish the story. He tells him that after the Americans arrived, he had typhus and diabetes. Afterwards, Vladek goes to Hanover, where he meets two old friends who tell him that they have seen Anya in Sosnowiec. Vladek decides to send Anya a letter with a photo of him. Vladek goes to Sosnowiec by train to look for her. He goes to a Jewish organization where they call her and they meet. And this is the story of Vladek Spiegelman. The end.